Hello, everyone, and welcome to podcast number 1. I don't know how you're finding this content, but I advise you to listen to it in its entirety because we're going to have a really serious conversation here about Christianity, modern Christianity specifically, and why it's scoffed at, why people just seem to not like it, why people don't take it seriously. We're going to get to the bottom of that right now. This is one of the biggest problems. Modern Christianity teaches us that everyone who is not a Jew is a Gentile. So that means the world over, all of us are Gentiles. The only people who aren't are the Jews. That is incorrect. I'm going to explain why. If you look at Genesis 10:5, it says, "By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations." These are Japheth's people. Japheth was Noah's eldest son. These are Gentiles. Only these people. Okay? And these are Europeans. What we want to call white people. These are the people who came over here from different areas in Europe and colonized these people over here. They've done so, like, I got a document here, man, that just goes from, the 1400s all the way till right now, how they have gone from country to country, colonizing and just bothering other societies. These are the Gentiles. It's white people, Europeans. I've got a map here. Portugal, Spain, France, they've got it bad. All three of these countries have it bad. They it's like a drug. They every couple hundred years they need to go somewhere. Not even a couple hundred. Every 50 years they need to go somewhere else and sink their fangs into another country and poison it. Italy, they're terrible. They want to be a world power. They always have. Greece, Switzerland, they're quiet. See, a lot of these other people are quiet. They don't really like Poland, you got them too. Germany, these areas, a lot of these people here in this country, they've got German. Look at people's last names, okay? And I ask people all the time because I have the opportunity to do that. Where is your last name from? Oh, this is from the Netherlands. Oh, this is from Norway. Oh, this is Swedish. That double A, like Baal, that's Norway. That's those people. And you got Ireland over here. They speak that Gaelic. That sounds like our southern accent over in the United States because they came over and they wanted slaves and they didn't want us to speak the language that we already spoke. So the United Kingdom, they're terrible. They've gone everywhere. These people, I wouldn't even want to be over here, honestly. The Ukraine, Romania, Hungary, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing some of these names. Russia, this huge area here, and so these are Gentiles with varying degrees of this sickness that we call colonization. Let me set the stage here. Originally, these people, these Japhethites, were the only people who didn't have melanin in their skin. It was only them. Now, modern day Europeans have gone and colonized just about every part of the world. Now, why is that? Because if they don't do that, this is one of the main reasons why they go and colonize people, because they need to blend in. They need to blend in. The Bible already does a fine job of singling these people out and saying, listen, the gospel needs to go to these people. These are not the teachers. These are not the people who get on podcasts and tell us how we need to have a relationship with God. These are the people who are the furthest out. So their job is to receive the gospel and reflect Jesus in their societies. That's Japhethites, that's Gentiles, Europeans. That is their job. Their job is not to teach anyone anything. If you just let the truth be the truth, you can easily see that these people have, it's almost like an addiction to putting people under their thumb and putting people under subjection, and it's this superiority mixed with, we would call it racism. It's colorism. It's all of these things that they bring to countries, when they come to a place, they don't add, they subtract. And the reason is because they don't have something to add. God did not give these people something to, and you obviously, because you're already in the wrong area. God did not tell your people to go over here and put these people under your finger. You're already wrong. So naturally, you're not, even if you do have something of talent or of worth, you're not going to be able to instill that in these people because you came for the wrong reasons. So these people, and there are so many, man, I got to write this down. There are so many reasons why these people do what they do, why they go to countries. One of the main reasons, I'm going to leave it with this. One of the main reasons is because they don't want to be singled out. That's why they have thought it well to, when they interpret the Bible, they call everyone Gentiles, because if they call just themselves Gentiles, we say, wait a minute now, you're teaching us the gospel needs to go to you. And it makes sense that it needs to go to you too, because you're the most cruel people. You're the people who are always going to these countries and taking over. You don't need to explain to us anything. Thank you, but no thank you. See, and that's what would be said if we started saying that these people are who they actually are. The Gentiles. I've got some text here, and Paul he's talking about these people too. He says, don't worry about, and just, even Jesus said, don't worry about what the Gentiles worry about. They worry about what they can have right now. They think that this earth and what it can give them is their God. This is only my creation. And see, they don't understand that. That's why they go everywhere. And what I was saying too, I got off, but I was saying that, they don't want to be singled out, because there was a time, listen to me, there was a time when only these people had that lack of melanin in their skin. And what they need to do in order to not to be just completely isolated, because see, that's why they have a scarcity mentality. That's part of the reason why they do this stuff, because they feel like, well, you know what? They know their genes are not as strong. We don't even need it. That's science. If you study, you can figure that out. But they understand that. So what they do is they try, it's almost like a desperate attempt to keep their genes that really should not exist alive. The default color for a human being is a shade of brown, varying degrees, but it is not the absence of, the sun is toxic to these people's skin. That is inferiority. And it is insurmountable nerve to have the world overthinking that it's superior to have that deficit. That is insane to me. That's crazy. I mean, I look around, where am I? That this is what's said here. They've done so many things, and it's the water that we all swim in. So no one really says anything about it. And they've got this thing that, okay, don't say anything bad about people. Everyone is individual. We know better than that. Other societies know better than that. They know you're this type of way. These are your people, and they act this way. If you go to other countries, you have to knock that off. That only works here, where they're in the ascendancy, or in some other countries where they're in the ascendancy. So even some of them in these other countries, they understand that, people groups are people. They're one. So when somebody, and that you have to look at behavior. You can't say that everybody is individual. That doesn't work. People are one. These people come from this area. Okay, this is going to be one. This is how they act. It's built into the genetic fabric of these families and these nations. So you have to look at people's behavior, and then you can start to make the proper conclusions about people. Doesn't that make sense to you? That these people would say, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be so different, and you can't even really explain why you're different from other people. Why don't we have melanin in our skin? Why do we look like this and no one else does? We need to spread our seed as much as, and you know what? In order to do that, we need to take over in these countries, because we're not going to be let in. We already don't look like other people, and that's already a deterrent. So we need to, with a strong hand, make our way into these countries and spread our seed, lest we die. That is what's wrong with these people right here. God told them, sit down and wait for my servants to come over and explain to you how to live peaceably with other people. And they didn't do that. That's why we're here in this country today. That's why we have these people. And listen, over the years too, these people are more and more, I'm talking about white people, they're more and more irritable because they feel like, well, we set this country up. Why is this machine not doing what we tell it to do? And it takes understanding of God's law to see that, wait a minute, we can't come over here and do this to these people. What about 200-300 years from now? Eventually they're going to throw this off. So then we're going to have to live with them, and we're going to be ashamed, and there's going to be white guilt and embarrassment and all these other things. And, then we're worried about that. Then we've got to get our education system. I mean, what are we going to teach our children? At what point do you go from subjugating and brutalizing a group of people to knowing how to run a country successfully? When did they learn how to do what was right? That's the question you need to ask yourself when you click off of this podcast. When did these white people learn how to do what was right? When did that happen in recent history? Huh? I don't see it. And see it, like I said, it takes God's law and understanding this is cause and effect. These are basic concepts that other nations understand, but these people have struggled with that, and they've been allowed to go from place to place doing what they do, because what God does is he allows these people to get you back to seeing him. But see, what we need to do now is see if we had just done what we were supposed to do. Because see, my people, we're Israelites. We are the Hebrews. We're the teachers. That's us. We're the people who are supposed to be going out to these nations and telling them about how do you have a relationship with God, because we have the strongest connection to him. Let me tell you something. For you to be able to go through what they put us through and thrive anyway and be successful anyway, you got to have something supernatural. You have to, because other people would have broken completely. And it's happened to other people too. There are people right now who are not around and we don't even know about it because they broke those people. And it hurts me to even have to say that. But this is what Gentiles do. They go to these places and they put these people under their thumb. They take their resources and their land. They call it their own. And to take away their shame, they mix their genes so that they can make more people without melanin, so they won't be as isolated. It's insane, man, what they've done. We need to take the mics from these people. They don't need to stand in the pulpits anymore. And we need to we need to go from the ground up, start in Genesis and comb all the way through and get the right interpretation of things in this book. I'm telling you, man, it's insane. You got to just start over. You have to start over. And I guess, I don't know, I've always kind of lived there. Even when I was a kid, I was like, wait, this is not right, man. Eventually I'm going to have to just study for myself, because you look around at what's going on in church and just what is happening, and you can feel God is not here. He's not in this. This is chaos and it's confusion. And this does not represent him, basically. So anyway, I hope we've learned today who Gentiles are. If you come from these other places, if your family, their family, and you're a descendant of Central South America, Africa, all of these other places, except for these European areas, you are not a Gentile. Don't let anybody call you a Gentile. That's only them. And refer them to these Bible texts that talk about them, because that means coastlander. It means this is where your people are from. If you're not from these areas, you don't apply. So now that we know that, we can look at things in a different light here. This changes the whole tint on the Bible. You see how it'll do that when you find something. If you study, you go find something in the New Testament where, Paul is writing to some of these churches and he mentions Gentiles. Now you know who he's talking about. And it makes a lot more sense than it does currently with the interpretation that we have now. So I don't know. I guess just give that some thought. And I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next podcast.